John Travolta plays a reporter doing a story on a health club where Jamie Lee Curtis is an aerobics instructor in Perfect, one of 4 new movies we'll be reviewing this week on At the Movies, the movie review program. I'm Gene Siskel, film critic of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times. In addition to Perfect this week, we'll also be reviewing the new James Bond movie, A View to a Kill, and Goodbye New York, about a New Yorker who takes the wrong flight out of town. First, Gene starts with Fletch.
Fletch was a big surprise for me, a delightful surprise, in fact, because it stars one of my least favorite actors, comedian Chevy Chase, who too often really just winks at the camera and says, in effect, "Aren't I funny?" Not here, though, because his character Fletch, an investigative newspaper reporter, finds himself up to his elbows in a drug-dealing story where one of the culprits has just asked Fletch, believe it or not, to murder him in exchange for money.
Why don't you try suicide? Believe me, I've thought about it. But my company's taken out a very large life insurance policy on me. Suicide would nullify my insurance. But murder does not. Why me? You're a drifter, pardon the expression, a junkie. Nobody would notice if you just disappeared. You see, I've been watching you for a couple of weeks.
Maybe I'm just on vacation.
Not with the scum you hang out with, no. No, I've watched, and I've thought. It's rather an elegant little plan. I even have your escape figured out for you.
Swell. Has it ever occurred to you I might not want to murder you, Stanwyck?
I've got $50,000 says you will.
Now, the movie has a lighter side as Fletch finds himself on the run from crooked cops. So he hijacks a kid and his car.
I always use a little chewing gum in these rides. It filters out the pollutants. Of course, you got some good grill work there. Keep out the ozone. I got to get this thing up to 95. Check out the fluorocarbon output. Don't worry about the speed limit here. That's why we got the police escort. You'll come. Found you now. Are you going to take me to jail for car theft? What, you steal the car? I sure did. Well, I'm not even sure that's a crime anymore. There have been a lot of changes in the law. All right, stop. Hey, pull over. Hey, look over the truck. Whoa! Nothing, it's a little game I play with my buddies. Kind of a hide-and-seek kind of a thing. They love it. What a day! Woo!
Can you tell that this film has been edited after Beverly Hills Cop? That music, the soundtrack, that kind of thing. Fletch is funny, exciting, full of authentic villains who scare the character of Fletch just enough so that Chevy Chase's funny lines really work as comic relief. I have to credit director Michael Ritchie for keeping a tight rein on Chevy Chase in this picture. This time he really does play a character in a very slick piece of old-fashioned commercial movie entertainment. I like Fletch a lot.
And that's really funny because I thought that the problem with the picture, I liked Ritchie's direction, I liked all the other characters. I thought the problem was Chevy Chase, and I thought it was because he didn't play a character. He was always coming up with his wisecracks and his asides and his little ironic commentaries on everything. And in this scene, for example, right here, that we saw, it is an exciting scene. It is a scary scene, except that his dialogue, it seemed to me, undermined it and made it seem like he didn't think it was real.
Okay. The second scene is the kind of thing that Chevy Chase does badly in the movies. I agree with you. Doesn't really impress me that much. The first scene with Tim Matheson there scaring him, and this whole thing involves, can he solve a drug problem going on the beaches of L.A., and can he deal with this guy who says, murder me, please, I'll pay you, and they're obviously connected. That stuff was actually quite exciting and very good drama. So there's more of that than there is the chase scene in the picture, and that's why I like this film.
Well, the movie is based on a bestseller, the whole series of bestsellers by Gregory MacDonald, and obviously Fletch in those books is kind of a wisecrack kind of guy.
Right.
But it seemed to me here what Chevy Chase did was go over the top and turn it into his comedy. In other words, he's a comedian in a movie where everybody else doesn't know that it's supposed to be a comedy.
I have had that complaint for years about him. I didn't have it this time. I think in terms of weight, it's much more weighted toward a serious crime thriller than it is to comedy.
It's interesting. Next at the movies, 007 tries to prevent California from sliding into the sea. Show on The Secret of James Bond last year, we decided that what separates the great Bonds from the indifferent Bonds was the quality of the villains. Great villains like Goldfinger make great movies. Forgettable villains left Bond with nothing but his special effects and his sexy girlfriend. The new 007 adventure, called A View to a Kill, kind of has it both ways. It has two great villains, but it doesn't give him enough to do. The villains are played by Christopher Walken as a billionaire industrialist who wants to corner the world market for computer chips, and Grace Jones is his bizarre girlfriend named Mayday. Every Bond movie has the same basic scene where the villain explains his plan to dominate the world, and in this scene, see if you can spot the basic flaw in Christopher Walken's plan.
Silicon Valley. Here's San Francisco. Over 250 plants, employing thousands of scientists, technicians. This is the heartland of electronic production in the United States, which accounts for what, 80% of the world microchip market.
What is it you propose?
Project Main Strike, for which each of you will pay me $100 million.
$100 million?
I want no part of it, thank you.
As you wish. The rest of our discussion must, of course, be confidential. Would you wait outside?
If you'd like me to, yes. Excuse me. Thank you.
Mayday, I'll provide you with a drink. So, does anybody else want to drop out?
Kind of makes you wonder where he thought he was walking, going downstairs on a dirigible.
Not too smart.
How stupid can you get? Anyway, Walken's plan is to corner the market on computer chips by destroying all of the computer firms in California's Silicon Valley, but unfortunately, he has overlooked one basic fact. The computer manufacturers in Silicon Valley are the purchasers of computer chips, which they put into their computers. They are not the manufacturers, who are basically in Japan, so he isn't killing the competition, he's killing his own customers. A real Bond villain would never make a mistake like that, but maybe it doesn't matter in a movie that's filled with stunts and special effects like the spectacular aerial fight involving Walken's blimp and the Golden Gate Bridge.
Go get him. Go!
Stacy, jump!
Now that's a pretty good shot. It does look like she's really hanging over the Golden Gate Bridge there, although some of the earlier shots in that sequence
Very
were
fakey.
pretty fake.
Yeah.
There were a lot of spectacular stunts in this movie. We also see Grace Jones, or her double, parachute off the Eiffel Tower. We see Bond penetrate the innards of the San Andreas Fault. He goes down in a mine and tries to
Looks
deal
like
with
Indiana
explosives.
Jones.
There's a lot of action, but it doesn't add up to much in this movie because the film hasn't really taken the time to get us interested in Christopher Walken's bizarre schemes, let alone make him believable. The movie has some good moments. It has some good stunts, including that breakaway car. Look at you. I can't wait to tell me about that car. I thought that the car was okay, but I thought the movie was a disappointment, and now Gina's going to tell you why the car wasn't any good either, right?
Well, the car's better than Roger Moore. Let's put it that way. That's my problem. I keep coming back to this. Roger Moore, for me, has never worked as James Bond, never will. It's Sean Connery's act. A rule in show business, don't do somebody else's act. He doesn't take the film seriously. If he isn't seriously scared, if he has his light comic approach, that's what he always says in interviews, well, I say then we don't feel in jeopardy for him. I mean, I want it. Just what you said at the top. I want a James Bond villain that can knock Bond off. We used to believe years ago that Bond, actually, this might be the last one. Here, you never know. He waltzes through
Well,
the
you're
thing.
right about that, and that Sean Connery always did seem to believe or to project that he really was in danger, that he might really get killed.
Yes.
Remember that laser beam?
The best.
Says, what do you want me to do? Talk? No, I expect you to die. You know, lines like that, and we thought it might happen too. With Moore, it is more of a light comedy
It's a lie,
approach.
and it doesn't work. And Christopher Walken is not a credible villain. I have another problem with him. I don't think he's as good as you do. In that scene there, he's having a light time. Christopher Walken is one of the sweet, most heartfelt actors. We saw that in The Deer Hunter. I do not believe him here.
No, look at him in Dead Zone. Christopher
He
Walken
wasn't a bad guy.
He can be a bad guy, and he could have been a better bad guy if they'd had more for him to say, more for him to do.
More for him to do. That's right. Destroy the world. Why, Silicon Valley, people are jealous of all the billionaires in Silicon Valley. If that blows up, I don't care. I'm jealous of those computer whiz kids.
Okay,
Let
well,
them get knocked off.
Everyone in Silicon Valley is happy to have your opinion on that
Thank
subject.
you.
Next at the movies, John Travolta and Jamie Lee Curtis in an investigation into the new singles bars of the 80s, health clubs.
Is Perfect, a film that really tells two stories. One about John Travolta learning to become a more sensitive journalist, and another story about today's health club singles scene featuring Jamie Lee Curtis as a dazzling aerobics instructor. Travolta plays a reporter for Rolling Stone magazine doing a story on the health club where Jamie Lee Curtis is working.
5, 6, 7, 8.
It's aerobics and gymnastics. That's Jessie Wilson. She's probably the best female instructor we got right now.
Now, also at the club, John Travolta meets a pathetic character, very nicely played by Lorraine Newman from the original cast of Saturday Night Live. She's put on some weight since those days.
I can't wait till I have plastic surgery.
You're having plastic surgery?
Didn't I tell you? Oh, yeah, I'm going to have plastic surgery.
You're kidding.
No, I'm going to have a chin implant and some cheekbones and a different nose.
Why? You look terrific. Are you serious?
Oh, yeah. A doctor friend of mine is going to do it for me. And he knows a guy who knows a makeup artist on the Dukes of Hazzard. He's going to redesign my face.
But do you think there's any connection here between your plastic surgery and your workouts?
It's part of the same thing.
Which is?
Well, to be perfect. The most perfect you can be. That's what I want to be, you know, the most perfect me possible.
And you'll do anything?
Anything.
Because if you perfect yourself, you'll be loved. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, you put that really nice.
The most important thing...
Now, one of the big crises in the movie occurs when Jamie Lee Curtis finds out that the sweet-talking Travolta is really doing a hatchet job on the whole California health club scene, and in particular on Lorraine Newman's character.
You lied to me. I'm erasing it.
You're not erasing it. Are you erasing it? Jessie, don't you think you're overreacting to this?
Yeah? That's what the other reporter said to me.
Oh, don't compare me to the other reporter. I didn't even mention your name.
You think I care about my name? You talk to me about Emerson and baby boomers and physical great awakening, and all you do is write a little piece about people getting into each other's pants.
Hey, everything I wrote in that story is true.
Everything the other reporter wrote about me was true, too, but it still hurts. It's not the truth I'm worried about. It's the tone and hurting people and using them. You're so disgusting. How can you be nice to somebody like Mackenzie and then I'm Linda? What did she ever do to you or anybody else for that matter? Nothing. What's wrong with wanting to be the best that you can be? What is so wrong with wanting to be perfect? What's wrong with wanting to be loved?
That Mackenzie she refers to is another story that John Travolta is working on in California about a John DeLorean-type businessman in trouble with the government. Her point is that he's easier on a wheeler-dealer than on the sad young woman who simply wants to look better. Now, I liked some things about Perfect. I thought its criticism of snotty cultural reporting made some sense. But I wish there had been many more scenes between Travolta and Curtis. Their relationship is kept in the film on a very superficial level. Basically, he watching her exercise. And I wish that there had been more scenes involving the young women at the club. Lorraine Newman's character is very appealing. And another character that's also interesting is Mary Lou Henner's character in this film. That should have been the heart of this film. Women like that working out at these clubs. My biggest disappointment of all, though, the very pat, happy-go-lucky ending that is really a disservice to everything that goes on before in this film. It just wraps everything up in a little sweet package. So a mixed review from me on Perfect. Boy, I would love to have re-edited this picture.
I'd like to re-edit it, too, and I think I could probably improve it because it's an ambitious movie that takes on two big themes. The fitness craze and honesty in reporting, and it blows both of them, and in both cases, by putting in too many repetitive scenes where the same thing happens over and over. For example, the relationship between Travolta and Curtis.
Right.
He wants an interview. She doesn't want him to have an interview. He keeps trying to trick her into an interview. It keeps turning out that just when they're falling in love, his tape recorder is on. That happens, that sequence, over and over and over again until we're so tired of it.
Well, I'm tired of...
we don't want it to happen anymore.
I'm tired of the whole Mackenzie thing with the DeLorean. Throw that out. Look at this picture. Let's look at it from a commercial way. Let's re-edit this picture right now. Look at it a commercial. you know that the thing that people want to see is stuff about health clubs. So stay with the health clubs.
That's right.
Who are the women who watch this film? Who are the guys that watch this film going to identify with? No one identifies with Jamie Lee Curtis because no one looks like her. It's those other people who want to look better.
Okay.
So make them the heart of the movie.
All of the journalism stuff. Now, the editor of Rolling Stone in this movie is played by Jan Winter, who is the founding editor and current publisher of Rolling Stone. It's a good thing they got him to play himself, because if he weren't in this movie, he'd probably sue. The movie treats Rolling Stone as a totally irresponsible and unethical magazine.
That would rewrite an entire article.
Who is the target here? Is the target unethical journalism, or is it just let's hire people, put them in the movie, and trash them?
Yeah. It's too bad, because this is a hot subject, and it should have been done better.
Now, here's another thing that I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
You're talking about the chemistry between Curtis and Travolta. Didn't you really object to that scene where they're working out together, and he's in her aerobics class, and you cut back and forth, and it's supposed to be kind of a symbolism, I guess, for sexual intercourse. First we see her, then we see him. He is obviously excited by more than the aerobics, let's put it that way. It seems to me that scenes like that should have been left right on the editing floor so the audience wouldn't be laughing at the movie just when it's supposed to be...
I know. Give me Lorraine Newman, give me Mary Lou Henner's character.
Okay, next at the movies, a New Yorker finds herself broken homeless in Tel Aviv.
Come with me. You will be my wife.
No, I'm married, thank you.
You're married?
Yes, I am married.
Sex is out of the question, huh?
You betcha, buddy boy. Take this thing back.
Here.
Goodbye, New York, and it stars Julie Haggerty, who also starred in Airplane and Lost in America, as a New Yorker who is married to a drug dealer, and she finds out that he's cheating on her. That's going too far. So she hops on the next plane to Paris, oversleeps, and ends up in Israel. The rest of the movie is about how she is broke and alone and forlorn and trapped in a travelogue about Israel. Here's the scene where she arrives at the wrong airport.
Excusez-moi. Où est l'autobus pour Paris, s'il vous plaît?
Paris?
Oui?
No passes to Paris here. You might be able to get a plane, madame.
A plane? Where am I?
Gurion Airport, near Tel Aviv. Madame?
Yeah, but what happened to Paris?
Paris is in France. This is Israel, the Holy Land.
She finds a cheap hotel room, so cheap they also rent it out to somebody else.
What in the hell?
Who are you?
This is my room.
There must be some mistake. This can't be your room.
Look, I'm going to call the police.
Call them so. They only need us 3 more minutes.
Now, you too.
I would never do this to anyone. I would never prevent anyone from finding some porn.
Out!
You know something, lady? I'm not very patriotic. I eat pork and I lie fairly often, but I draw the line somewhere.
Oh, yeah? You think you got problems? I was on my way to Paris, and I end up here. Everybody carries a gun. It's like the damn OK Corral. There are guys out at the airport dressed like Abe Lincoln kissing the runway. I don't have a cent. I don't have any clothes. I don't know anybody, and I don't know how I'll get the money to get out of here. And I'm not even religious, but you're the one with the problems because I prevent you from this universe in my bed.
So there. The guy in her bedroom is Amos Collick. He produced the film, he directed it, he wrote it, and he co-stars with her in the film, and later on they're going to have a love affair. I guess that meeting him in her bed is kind of what Hollywood would call a cute meet, you know? Oh, here you are. Goodbye, New York is a curious mixture of sophisticated characters and a really, really dumb plot. Julie Haggerty goes to live on a kibbutz, but she breaks her fingernails while working as a banana picker, but then she saves somebody's life with artificial respiration, so it all kind of balances out. She meets a lot of nice guys, but nothing much ever happens, and then she whines a lot in a breathless, little girl voice that undermines everything she says in this movie. And I don't remember her voice as being objectionable in the other films I've seen her in.
I do.
I'm telling you, in this film, it's the proverbial fingernails on the legendary blackboard. By the end of this film, I didn't want her to say anything. Interesting or not, just don't talk. At the end of the movie, all the serious themes are forgotten about. We get a really silly ending. It's the kind of movie they want you to see another movie that makes you want to see another movie named Goodbye, Julie Haggerty. It's a shame that such an interesting country would have a visitor who's one of the least interesting and most obnoxious characters I've seen in a long time.
And I have a feeling that, I don't know why they, in this day and age, 1985, you would want to put in the middle of Israel someone who comes out of, I don't know, some screaming screaming Mimi Hollywood 1950s, and I'm trying to pick a bad decade. This is not the golden era. This is, whiny woman.
She's a real slow study. I mean, even if she isn't Jewish, and maybe even if she isn't really up on the headlines, I mean, a lot of people have heard of Israel. You know, a lot of people know that it's there, and if they were there, they would say, "Here I am." She wants, "Where am I? Who am I?" I mean, she starts at ground zero, and she never gets very far.
And the problem is that the guy that she's playing opposite against, he's a fairly hip guy, very sophisticated. He was interesting. I would have followed him anywhere, except with her.
He was a good actor. I'd like to see him in another movie. He had an offhand way of sounding.
That's exactly right.
Very natural. He sounded like he was saying things
Didn't seem like an actor.
A real person might say.
Didn't seem like an actor at all. Get another co-star. That's our solution for you. Okay, now let's summarize our reactions to the movies on this show. A split decision on Fletch with Chevy Chase. I thought it was funny, exciting. Roger was not quite amused. 2 downturned thumbs for A View to Kill. The latest, and it wouldn't bother me, at least, if it were the last, James Bond picture starring Roger Moore. And we were both disappointed in Perfect. The wimpy ending of the film, plus a lot of other problems, really hurt it a lot. Too bad. It could have been a good one. And 2 down